My name is Frank Schlichting. The documentary you're about to see was shot during the flood in 2018 in Grand Forks. It's very sad and tragic. You'll meet some of the people that were affected directly by the flood and lost everything they own. It's difficult to watch. What happens is we get a lot of snow during the winter and we have a really cold spring. Suddenly it heats up. We get a week of hot weather, 30-degree weather, lots of snow in the mountains, and then we get a rainfall event and the water comes up. This is what happened in 2017. This is what happened in 2018. But this story didn't really start in 2018. It started before that. The floods, we had floods for a number of years. They're getting worse every year. People tell us that climate change is here and we have to get ready for it. We haven't done anything in Grand Forks. The few little berms and stuff that we have were built back over 50 years ago. In 2017, we had a large flood that almost flooded downtown Grand Forks. It came right to the edge and then the water went down and receded. We all breathed a huge sigh of relief. We dodged a bullet. We have time to prepare for the next flood. Many homes were damaged and lost. 2018 came. Nothing was done. Nothing changed. The province, the city, no one built any berms or dikes or did anything. Well, the government ordered sandbags. They brought in sandbags for everyone. Well, what good did that do? I didn't see one place was saved by sandbags. Well, you know, the community, they tried as hard as they can and they worked their asses off to try to protect their property, and it didn't do any good. Everything was completely overrun and flooded. Sandbags is like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot. So what have we learned after this big flood in 2018? Nothing. The government tells us they have no plans to do any infrastructure improvements in Grand Forks. We're going to do this again in 2019. This is an outrage. How can this happen in a country like Canada? We all pay our taxes. We expect the government to build infrastructure to keep us safe in our communities. This community is going to die, and nobody's doing anything about it. We should all be outraged as taxpayers of British Columbia. The government's going to have to pay for a lot of this flood damage. Damage they could have easily avoided if we would have had proper flood control in place. So please watch the show. Get mad. Share with your friends. Help us change the system. We need to do things differently. Alright, so it's the 9th day of May here. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so yeah, it's raining right now. It's been raining all night, so the water's coming up. And this is as high as we've seen it. So as you can see, that they need quite a bit of sandbagging across there. And the river is pretty close to the road here in a few spots. So it looks like that's probably going to breach pretty quickly on the other side. It looks like the field's actually lower than the river. So okay, well, this here is of a particular concern, I think, because first of all, we're pretty close to the road, but that's not a big deal. Of course, the river is pushing against the road here because the water's coming down this way, and as you can see, and it's running right along the road here, which is pretty close to the edge there. So obviously, all this material underneath this roadway is getting saturated. So I think maybe there's a good chance that this road could wash out as the water rises. So we'll see what happens with that, I guess. Possibly, you know, if the road gets shut down, I think there's a good chance that they're going to shut the flooding will come right into Grand Forks and the highway will be closed. And this would be the only really way to get around if the downtown's flooded, to get around. But I don't see this being viable either. I think this will probably wash out also. So here we are at the river. I'm just about right in town here, and yeah, so the water is really probably less than a foot from flooding the city of Grand Forks. As you see, actually looking across where my truck is, I think that's actually below the river level at this point. So if we get a breach here, it's going to take very little to flood the whole downtown, and I expect that's what's going to happen. Basically, we've got quite a lot of rain here, and the water's been rising anyhow, and then we've got pretty big whack of rain and more rain forecast. So I expect what's going to happen is the water's going to keep coming up, and it's only going to come up just a short little ways, and we'll be flooding out Grand Forks. So I try and tell everyone on social media, if they have any business downtown, they better do it today because they probably won't be able to drive into town tomorrow. On here, and this is the berm that the city's tried to put up, I guess. I don't really know what the point of that is. I would predict that's going to wash out really quick. But there we go, see. We're talking about a few inches between the river and the lawn here, so I would say flooding here is imminent. We'll just take a walk over behind here and have a look. See what we can see here. Well, it's probably not any better here. So if it wasn't for this little thing here, Grand Forks would already have water in the streets. But I don't think this is going to do very much. It's kind of sad. I don't know why they don't build a big concrete wall here. They need about 1 kilometer of berm here to protect the downtown structure. This certainly isn't going to do it. So there we are. See, here's this little berm they have. We'll get in behind it and show you a little better maybe. I don't want to step on the berm. It's not going to help it none. So anyhow, so there's the level of the river there. And if we look across here, most of Grand Forks is probably below the river level, I would say. So I expect by tomorrow this will all be full of water. And the city will be shut down. Alright, this is another area in Grand Forks. It's called Ruckle. So I shot this just after we shot this stuff of downtown, so it's not quite as high here. So it looks like maybe the downtown would flood before this area does, but it's fairly low here too. And as you can see, we're not too far below the level, but it's still, probably at least a foot and a half. So it is quite a bit lower than, other areas are. So if it breaches here, it'll flood a pretty big area. About 2 p.m. On the 9th of May, so yeah, this has come up quite a bit since this morning. So that's kind of a good benchmark there, that building. You can see that blue stripe on the very bottom of that building is to the top of that blue stripe. So if we're not busy doing anything else, we can come have a look at this tomorrow. And you'll be able to see how much higher it is than it was right now. So yeah, so this is the other end of the campground there, and yeah, as you can see, the water is definitely coming up here pretty quick. It's starting to fill all these little voids in here. There's nobody down in the city park anymore. I guess they have other places to be. So well, at least this year they got the power shut off apparently, and all the picnic tables and stuff they picked up. So yeah, did a little better prepared than the last flood they had here. So, and this was, yeah, we saw this last year too. So what's happening here is just filling this big parking lot up, and this is what's going to happen to the town of Grand Forks overnight, I'm sure, because the river again is higher than a lot of places in town. So it's just a matter of these spots getting breached as the water comes up, and this is what the town of Grand Forks is going to look like tomorrow. It'll be my prediction. The water's right over at Gilpin this morning, on the 10th of May. So she's come up quite a bit overnight, which is what we were expecting. So pretty wet here in this neighborhood here. So this is the second place on Gilpin that we've seen the water over top of the road, but so far the road's still open. So it's expected that this isn't the high water yet. I'm expecting that she's going to come up yet. We're going to see if we can get over to that house from here.
The house is completely surrounded. It's flowing water, not still water. Probably close to a foot deep.
Flowing water, house completely surrounded. Appears to be about a foot deep.
I think about 2 or 3 feet.
Affirmative.
You can see there's sand bags that were built here to protect this low-lying area, and that's breached, so the water's rising very quickly in behind that. So we see a bunch of residences there. Unfortunately, they're going to be under. There's going to be a lot of water there. So as you can see already, it's they're starting to flood that, so there'll be a lot of damage in this low-lying area. Yeah, the water is coming up here pretty quick, and there's not much room under the bridge now. So it looks like it's coming up fairly quickly. As you can see, the bridge is getting closer to the top. So I did say yesterday I thought it was likely the downtown was going to flood, and it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, May 10th, and that is what's happening. The water's coming up quickly in town here, and I expect that the highway is probably going to be closed, and the downtown park will be underwater. So there's been lots of people there sandbagging here to try to mitigate that. I don't know if it's going to help at this point. I'm thinking probably the best course of action would be quickly gather up whatever you don't want underwater and leave. Well, as the city says, they built a dike, so I said no, there's no dike there, and yeah, there is no dike. So there we go. There's the river's coming up, and it's flooding into Grand Forks, and the downtown area is. Look at the bubbles coming up out of the pavements. She's flown in here pretty good, and as I talked about before, the fire hall will be one of the first casualties of the flooding here, because it's built in a pretty low area. So as you can see, the water's right up to the bottom of the fire hall. So unfortunately, you know, one of the agencies that is supposed to be helping people is trying to help itself. Alright, so yeah, a lot of water here, and you can see the river is right there, and there's no berm at all. It's not slowing down. They did, I don't know, they put a little bit of gravel or something and some plastic, and they called that a berm, but it didn't do anything at all. There needs to be about a 4-foot high concrete wall and berm, a proper berm, to protect the town. So it's not here, and the water's coming up. So I think we're up about 1.5 feet from yesterday. Lots of water here. It's supposed to still keep coming up for about another 12 hours. We'll see how that pans out. Yeah, so it's pretty wet here. Fire hall's all flooded here. So the downtown is starting to flood now. And a lot of traffic here. People doing sandbagging, but not many of the sandbags are doing any good because they're pretty much all breached. The sandbags everywhere we've seen.
Come on to all teams. Just wanted to advise that we are now moving staging area from
The door closed?
and Central Avenue all the way over Extra 2 parking lot in the northwest corner. Over. Team 1, copy.
Team 2, copy, and we're at that location now.
So Columbia is here on scene and can take over for communication. Over.
Sweet.
All right, copy that. We are going to move command over there now at this point. Over. So many copies. I think we should probably set the command up beside the gas station. There's quite a big space, and we'll be close to the highway there.
That's what downtown Grand Forks looks like now. A few businesses have got sandbags on them, and that's all in the water for now. Lots of pumping going on, and the water continues to come up, I would think, because there's a lot of water flowing this way, so the water's going to be rising very quickly in town now. So you can see there's a massive amount of water coming in here. And so there we are, there's the river. So it's actually flowing backwards. If you look at the river there, it's going to the right. It's actually flowing backwards into town here. So it should be rising here pretty quick. And Grand Forks is going to have a lot of water in it. Now, water there is probably about 2.5 feet deep in Main Street right now. And she's coming up rapidly. So we're just down at the fire hall. We just give a whole bunch of evacuation notices out, and we're just giving them information. So I just got a few minutes here to deal with that. So looks like the fire hall will be getting flooded here shortly by the looks of things.
A creek that's washed out the road here. Can you guys tell me how much further those houses are from the creek?
Just hold on, we'll fetching the map.
I'll show you some drone footage that we took during the flood here. So this here is up at up the North Fork. It's up near the Pines Bible Camp. And this place here was just completely cut off from the river there. You see a semi-trailer, a van, a semi sitting there. I presume that was used for storage. I don't think anyone drove in there. But this house was just like an island in the middle of the river there. So this is Whitehall Road, just a little bit to the east of town here. And this is where earlier we saw where the water was going over the sandbags that flooded this area. It's a fairly low area, and there's a lot of water, and there's quite devastating in there. And the water come up very quickly and through this area. And I think it's a fair bit lower than the river here normally. Anyhow, so it was kind of like a bowl stuck in there. We didn't fly over any areas in the town because we're not legally allowed to fly a drone there. It's too close to the airport. This area ended up being totally cut off during the height of the flood because the road was all underneath the water. There's still some people sitting on the bridge, but they're on the other side and they couldn't get across. There was a picture of a Jeep that went through about 4 feet of water. It was crazy. Lucky they didn't get stuck in there. Also noticed when the water went down, there was a tremendous amount of silt in this whole area that was deposited in there. So this is kind of the water. Water comes into Grand Forks, and there's two rivers, and it's kind of a flat area coming out of the mountains. So this is kind of the first place where it really widens out, where the water was quite a bit. So the water slowed down and deposited a lot of silt up there. So it probably would have actually brought this land up a little bit, maybe not all that much. So we're just approaching the nursery bridge here. You see there's a couple of people standing underneath the bridge. The other thing I've considered that is there's always a danger that these bridges get clogged up with debris. It seemed like there was a lot of big trees, a huge amount of trees that came down that I observed. And as far as I know, there was no place that the bridges actually ended up getting dammed up. That's always a risk that the bridges cause a big dam. In this whole area, there's not a lot of berms along the river, but we saw lots of sandbags, but the sandbags didn't do anything. They were just completely overwhelmed. So I think it's kind of important to show this and show the people just how fast the water can come up. By the time the water really starts coming up, there really isn't any time to do much of anything. All you can do is try to save some of your valuables and get yourself and some of your pets and stuff out of your house if you even have time to do that. So really, by the time the water starts coming up, it's really too late to try to save anything. It's a really sad situation, but the water, it comes up fast and it doesn't stop for anything. Like none of these places here, were sandbagged, the sandbags really made any difference whatsoever. They all end up being completely flooded and underwater. The sandbags weren't effective at all. Sandbags really are, just kind of a last-ditch attempt at to try to save your property, but they're really the poorest form of flood control there is. So the keep these areas from flooding and stuff is planning way before the flood comes. But by the time the water starts rolling up your street, it's it's really too late to do anything. Effective flood control measures take place months or years before these events happen. There's not really much you can do once it starts. This is again up in North Fork there, near the Pines Bible Camp there, and you see some houses are completely flooded there, and they're camped up along the road there watching it. There's the local homeless shelter, Whispers of Hope. So all rock wool is all, the whole plant be all shut down, and they're out of production. Mill is shut down because there's no access to the mill, so all the logging trucks are parked, and we're down to one lane traffic going through only one road that's still open on Highway 3. So there's a shack at the campground thing again. Look how high it is now. So this is day 3. The water come up really dramatically overnight. A lot more flooding, and we'll show you what's all going on downtown. A huge amount of flooding here now. There we are. We were at City Park here again, so there's the Trans-Canada Trail there. Lots of water in the park, as you can see, it's coming way up overnight. There we go, like even the picnic tables that were on high ground are kind of floating away through here. Oh, hey, that's a lot of water. Guy's catching a quick nap there while he's watching the pumps. Okay, so this road's shut down, and if we look way to the end there, there's a truck that sunk right up to the roof on the bridge there. Yeah, the only way you get through here is with a canoe now. That makes sense. I'm gonna try to pump it out. Yeah. This is the Granby River on the 11th of May. We're about 10 o'clock or so. So actually this river has come down a little bit in the last few hours. Because you can see some of the fences and stuff where all the grass is stuck in there, and it was quite a bit higher. But so we got two rivers here, the Granby and the Kettle River, so the flooding is caused by some of the two. So we're following the road here into Manly Meadows, and this is an area that was really devastating. You see the road was all shored up last year. They rebuilt it all and spent a pile of money on it. It didn't do any good at all, and it's completely wiped out the whole road. And the water is actually about 3 feet below its peak. This was shot on the Monday, so you know, it's really feel bad for the people that live here, but it's completely devastated this whole. There's only about 4 or 5 houses here, but there's absolutely nothing left there. It's just completely wiped all the buildings and all the infrastructure and everything right off of there. And one has to wonder if that actually should ever be rebuilt, or if that should just be a cattle pasture, or something else. Obviously, you know, just a horrible situation there. And I don't think it would be feasible to build a berm to protect this actually pretty small piece of land. I don't know how much land is here, maybe 250 acres or so. I'm not really exactly sure, but as I say, yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to show you some of the high water, some stuff around Gilpin, Manly. This is one of them. And then we're going to have a look downtown for the flood preparations for the next crest. So there was there was a high water event. The water went down. It's down here. And they anticipate going back up to similar levels. There's a flood. So we can, we'll show you the preparations are underway, and they expect the water is going to rise in the next couple of days because a rainfall event and a lot of snow that melted. And see, that's Edwards Pond, that big pond. It's always like that. That's actually a sanctuary for turtles. So maybe a lot of this other land should be used for the same purpose. So this didn't bother the turtles none. It's a really good wetland area, and there's a western turtle. This is where Gilpin Road is, but it's closed. But we're going to go down and have a look at it anyways. They don't want anyone driving in this part. It's way too deep. And it's all just kind of a big lake in here. Yes. It's the 11th in the evening here, and the water's really started going down here, and Gilpin Road's still closed, but we were able to get through with the side-by-side with any problem at all. That place on the other side of the river is really wet though. How fast that water's going still. You know, it's down a lot, but it's trucking. There's no doubt about that. About 12 hours ago, there was a pickup barely made it through this, and there isn't like 6 inches of water left. It's completely changed it. It's amazing in two ways about how fast it comes up and how fast it goes down. There's boats here. Yeah, a fair bit of water here, and it's coming down, so you just imagine how nasty it was when it was a couple of feet higher. Still a lot of water here, yeah. Water was right to that window of the shack there, so we're thinking about 4 feet lower than, so it hasn't really come up much. The second crest, it hasn't started yet anyways. We'll have to see what happens. They've deployed kind of a new weapon here in the flood against the water. And so first he's put a big berm in here. Something I haven't seen before. I have to kind of wonder why they wouldn't have put the berm along the river and kept all the town from flooding. Here's the other end of the berm, which is kind of really funny because we're probably about 6 feet higher than the bottom part of the berm. So I'm not sure why they have, why they started way up here. But anyhow, so that's, well, it looks like a pretty good plan. I think it's going to keep the water out of the downtown area if it comes up this high. I mean, it's got quite a long ways to go yet to come up, but we'll see if that happens. So that's a way better plan than they had before. But the rest of the downtown area, it looks like a war zone from Afghanistan or something. So last week when we had the crest, there was water right on the road that we showed you. And it's all dry now, but so they got a lot of sandbags on both sides of the road, and their idea was to pump out the road to keep it dry, which didn't work. Sandbags aren't a very good way of stopping water. They kind of slow it down a little bit, but don't really stop it. So theoretically, you know, these sandbags could all come out of here because this bladder should keep this dry. I'd be very surprised if there was any water ever to touch these sandbags. But they built them up pretty high. But let's see what happens. There we are. I guess a lot of these businesses look like they're kind of packing up here. So we got a lot of areas that are pretty well sandbagged here. Right, today is the 29th of May, so you can see the river's gone down quite a bit. I don't know it is high, but you know, the flood's long gone and past. So we're just trying to figure out where this berm is that they were talking about that was breached. So we're in Ruckle, just looking at some of the flood damage here, and there's a fence, chain link fence here that was wiped out. It's all been ripped out. I guess the debris must have caught it and tore it out, but I know you hear some talk about a berm in Ruckle, but there's certainly no berm here. I mean, we're all this area was all full of mud and trees and stuff, so obviously the water was all in this area here. So you can see they poured a bunch of riprap in here because what was happening probably is this bank was starting to erode when the water was higher. But I wouldn't characterize this as a berm. It is no higher than any of the surrounding area. So again, you know, there's no berm. There was no berm here. They just kind of stabilized the bank a little bit. And right now the water is probably about 4 feet below the land here, I guess, something like that. As you can see over on the other side, it's a fair bit lower there. So the water would have been up pretty high into that area. And there's a picture of a shed and quite a few trees that blew over in that area there. You know, the water is only about maybe 3 feet from flooding the banks on that side now. And as you can see here, these buildings are quite a lot lower than the road, so they would have been impacted by a huge amount of water. And they suffered a lot of damage to their homes. We have a flood restoration expert here, and I've just been chatting to him. What he's been doing is taking out the drywall and stuff, and there's a lot of mold in these buildings and stuff, and I wanted to see if I can go in there and get a shot out of it, and he said, no, you definitely need to be protected. But what he's done is he's volunteered to take my camera, and he's going to go for a little walk in there, and going to show you just exactly how much damage the combination of the sewage and contaminated water and the heat, I guess, is doing to the building that we see here. And this is one of the buildings that was in the city of Grand Forks, and it's actually flooded. So this building here is actually the seniors hall, and you can see some of the mold and stuff on there. You think, oh, that's not bad. I mean, they could just wash that off. I tell you, I went into one of those houses, and after just a few minutes, and I'm a pretty tough guy and stuff, and I'm not allergic to anything. I have no allergies or anything like that. Just after probably less than 20 minutes of being in that house, I had a headache and my nose was running for the rest of the day, and I felt like crap. There's just no way you can move back into these places. You know, it doesn't look that bad, but it's the stink and the mold. Yeah, it's just outrageous. You wouldn't believe actually how bad that is if you weren't in there.
Hi, my name's Russ Morrison, and this is my life. This is my street. And on my street is my house. And this is what I have left. This is everything I own. I've been through a couple of floods already, but never one like this. It's utterly devastating. You'll have to excuse the mess. Usually my girl takes such good care of me, cleans this, but not today. This was once a lovely home. And now I'm homeless. Oh boy. This is my youngest boy's room. And mold everywhere. I don't think I'll be moving back into this house. Not like this. Not after this. I couldn't go through this again. This is my third flood in a row living here. And now I have nothing. Thanks for watching.
So this is one of the areas just adjacent to downtown, and the water rose up here pretty high. There's a pickup truck in the street here. It was shut down for about 2 weeks. There was 5 feet of water in the street. You can just see the top of the pickup. And as you can see, a lot of damage here. Severely impacted in this area. It's probably one of the most garbage in the streets and stuff that I've seen. There's just no place to pile it. That stop sign. You can see that stop sign in the background there. And the water is obviously right up to the top of the stop sign, as you can see. Well, halfway. See the mud on the stop sign there? That's how high the water was in here. So pretty devastating to the homes here. And we're going to have a look at their house here. So this means you can actually go in here, just a health hazard. So the city came in here and did a little assessment and decided that it was okay for you to go in here, but you can't move in here.
They
obviously.
found asbestos and
Oh, I see, yeah.
mold and
Oh, yeah. So they actually asked you if they can come in here?
they clean stuff
Oh,
up.
it smells.
Our contents and all
Yeah,
that.
well, you can really smell it in here.
But
And
now
like-
the house will sit.
You got actually sand, it's just really muddy. It's all like sand on the floors.
Yeah.
It's dried out, but it's look at the mold in there. That's pretty black.
All the way through here too.
Yeah. So that all the drywall and the insulation would have to come out. And then plus your, yeah. Well, there's the basement. Let me turn that one of the lights on, I guess, eh? Oh. So there's no power in here now, right? Your power shut off?
Watch those steps. Power's on.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah, she's pretty stinky in here. Yeah. Smells worse than the mines that I go into. Yeah. We still got water in here yet too, so. That's the problem when the water comes up, you know, you can have a sump pump, but there's nowhere for the water to go. Where would you pump the water to?
I know. There could
Yeah.
be-
You can't put it in the sewer.
And there might be new underground streams down there now.
Yeah.
So it's just constantly coming in.
This looks like it's off kilter. Was it always like that? Like this is below here, right?
Yeah, they were.
Looks like it might have shifted, eh? Or
Uh,
it's hard to say it was like that all the time or not, but yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
You got, yeah, so you got a bit of a crack in here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it almost seems like this is sunk a little bit.
Yeah, could
I bet you it has, eh?
Yeah,
See, you got cracks in here. So your foundation is probably shifting, eh?
yeah. Yeah, that was good for.
See, they'll probably do a bigger,
Up in there too.
a better assessment, yeah. Oh, you'll see it everywhere, yeah.
Yeah,
There's cracks there.
yeah.
So you probably, that's the trouble if your foundation is saturated.
Up in there too.
And it's just, you know, the foundation is built on dirt or sand or whatever, and it gets soaking wet. Well,
It
all of a
is
sudden,
sound, yeah.
like we've seen some houses downtown that just right off there, that tilted right off the access. You haul all your stuff to the dump already?
Actually, the insurance company came in and took all our contents out and
Oh yeah.
just going through it all. And,
Well, you're lucky you have insurance to deal with. A lot of people are just having to see
Yeah.
how it works out with the emergency program, I guess.
we left out and we had the overland insurance.
So all my books are gone.
Yeah.
This
So did you guys get a chance to save much of anything when the water was coming
Not
in?
really.
Not really.
No. You know, it's funny, you know, that the government and all that, after the flood happens, you know, all of a sudden, you know, they get all excited, but nobody tells you before it's going to happen.
They never came and told us that there was,
There was no
beyond
warning.
putting an alert on Facebook, there was fuck all.
Is that right?
They never showed up to say, gee, the water's pretty high. They never
Yeah.
showed up to say,
I wasn't here.
get out of here.
Well, I was on Facebook when I was downtown and I saw it was come up to the Whispers of Hope thing, and I put on there, says if you got any business downtown, you better do it today because it's going to be flooded. I was the only person that said that. You know, and all these experts and all that, and they're watching all the thing, they don't know shit.
All of our neighbors stood around
Yeah.
watching us drinking beer while
Yeah.
we were packing and
Yeah.
packing and packing and packing.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I've never seen it this high in 20 fucking years of being here.
Well,
PKB didn't warn anybody.
Nobody warned, there was no warning of any kind.
yeah.
The neighbor,
It looks off a kilter, eh?
yeah.
Yeah, this is unreal. This was,
Well, so that sunk since that happened?
that's a sinkhole.
That-
We don't warn them.
It sunk more than where my pallet was because it was leveled and a pallet in there.
Before it was 4 inches, but now it's.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the foundation is gonna, it's not gonna be level, eh?
I don't think anything's going to be leveled
Yeah.
by the time it dries.
Yeah, we had a good garlic crop going too.
Had a hell of a
I don't think I'll be able
garlic
to eat it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's shifting.
Yeah, I don't know if it would bother it or not.
Maybe some contaminants.
Hard to say.
When we moved in, it was the join.
Yeah.
Now it's separating, right?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely even from
I noticed
in
this
10 days.
sink-
Yeah, if you look at
Oh.
that sinkhole in here, yeah, look at that sinkhole going down. Maybe
That's
there's a
new.
Gopher moved in there, maybe, I don't know. No, probably
No,
not.
that's totally new. I bet you it washed out in the basement there.
Yeah.
That's the bottom of the foundation.
Oh, yeah, there's another crack there. Is that crack?
Yeah, that is a new crack.
Yeah.
That's a new crack. Yeah.
That's what I said. It's going to split at the join,
Sure.
and the house is going to sink.
So where did all the water come from that flooded here? Over top here? Did it go over top of the berm or through it?
Through it. From here, it started pissing through here.
Oh,
And
through
then
it.
through it. And
Not-
then
not
it kept
over it.
climbing it.
Yeah.
And then when we left, it was 2.5 inches up here,
Right.
right?
But there's probably other places where
If you go down that
I've never
way.
seen this before. Oh yeah.
Oh, she had to open her fence.
So there is a berm here.
This is supposed to be a public access walking trail.
Oh, I see.
Because
Yeah.
she believes she owns it, right? See where her fence is. She believes she owns
I believe
down
in 3
into the
places,
water.
Right.
apparently.
Yeah, so this is an old berm here. Yeah.
This is the 48.
Well, it's amazing how low that is, but I think, you know, I think the water can probably come in from Roxall coming this way anyhow, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of seepage too, ground.
Yeah.
Normally we get the seepage from the ground where they meet.
Well, you can see this is a pretty low area. Well, yeah, so even the, you know, the water, since it's receded quite a lot in Rockall, again, you know, they talk about this berm breaking here, but there's no berm here. You can see the water's actually not that much lower than the surrounding area here. So I think probably this riprap, this rock, was placed in here after the flood or during the flood. I don't recall it being here before, but in any case, it doesn't do anything to keep the water out of the community of Rockall here at all. You can see it's just a little bit lower than it's not really all that much lower than the houses and stuff in here, the river at this point, and the river is low now. So this is a rental house on the corner of 68th and 2nd Street, and has been really devastated by the flood. And we did get permission from the tenant here to film this. So his name's Richard, so he's let us. He said go ahead. And, so he's renting this house. So you know, so he thinks the landlord's maybe going to want to rebuild it. He figures a timeline of about 9 months or so. So you have to wonder, you know, how much money would a landlord want to invest in something like this? You know, if there aren't some berms, you know, put into place to actually do something with this house when you know, they finally, you know, who wants to spend a whole bunch of money fixing this and then have it happen again next year? So, well, it's really smells in here, and a lot of damage in here. There's really, you know, doesn't seem to be much left to fix, really, you know, when you look at it. But yeah, they ripped out all the city, actually, they ripped out all the drywall and everything, took it all out and threw it out on the curb, and the city actually picked all this stuff up. Really smells in here. And this is kind of a typical of a small house in this neighborhood. You know, that, I don't know, to my mind is basically a teardown, I think, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Well, it's the 1st of June, and so you know, downtown is being rebuilt now, so they're just ripping everything out of these buildings, and show you just how much damage there was to them. So there's quite a few companies working in town rebuilding all this stuff there, and we talked to a few of them. And you know, this whole building here is really impacted. So they're ripping out you know, everything basically to the flood line, taking it all out, all the drywall, insulation, everything, ripping out everything. There's nothing left in here that was salvageable, and they just ripped everything completely out of these buildings. And I can see right down to the studs there, and they're starting from there, drying them out. And pretty substantial amount of damage, as you can see, in this hole, in all these buildings here. So, you know, the insulation is soaked full of this water, and we got all the mold and everything, and they've had to clean everything out of here and throw it all away, and basically start over with just the shell of a building, basically. So pretty extensive damage to this whole block here. And this was all underwater during the flood. As you see, there was the main street, and there was water rushing into all these buildings. You know, they were sandbagged, but it did absolutely no good whatsoever. The sandbags barely even slowed down the water. So yeah.